Can they hear me? Can they hear me live out there? Next beat. That ain't the beat I wanted to.
Those was wood
another
beats
beat.
right
Another
there.
beat. Nope. Give me another beat. Give me another beat. Nope. That's not it. That's the beat. Turn it up.
Oh, word.
Turn it up. I gotta hear it a little louder. Can you make it louder than my headphones? Turn me up in my headphones. I'm still stuck in the 80s/90s. Lottos, kangaroo boots, nanny ghosts, Beelers, jumpsuits and troops, Junos, color Levi's, Bugs Bunny sweaters with the rhinestone ring on it. Fighting and making up the next day. Nobody getting shot. Working a hustle and a get it, a get got. We had love for the streets, our family, our foes, our friends. Respect for the elderly. Pager/payphone, sneaking into Adams Theater. Watching Crush grooving tougher than leather. Hopping gates out the college port to bang out, cause you don't wanna get caught at mom's crib or at Von's crib. Eating funny dinner with the fam. Church every Sunday, 8 o'clock a.m. And even if I fell asleep in the back row or played sick, no matter what, man, I still had to go. 80s, baby. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. 80s, baby. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode number 78 of the X-Cast. I'm your host, Josh Houselander. With me, as always, to do all the hard work and help me cast the pods is Adam Hernandez. It's day 5022 in the search for Tim Shovelday. What's up, Adam?
Nothing much, man. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. We got a regular show tonight.
Regular show. Yep.
Yeah. You know, it's nothing but.
It seems like we haven't had one of these, and
yeah, we haven't. But no, I'm
quite some time.
Kind of excited.
Well, I guess what we say with regular show is it's just going to be us tonight.
Right. Yeah, it's just going to be us, and just going to be us.
No guests.
No special guests.
Yeah.
No deep issues. No politics of the empire. No loud state.
Well,
this is just the X-Cast.
Yeah, well, we're going to be talking about some upcoming stuff later on in the show, but
absolutely. No, we've been off to a great start this year.
We have.
And we've had some great shows already. I'm really pleased with that. I hope you guys have been tuning in. If you're not, you can always go back. The magic of the internet has saved it all for you, for your viewing and listening pleasure. You can go back and listen at your leisure to the loud state and politics of the empire and deep issues and the X-Cast with our myriad of guests, and also every once in a while just one of these regular shows with just me and Adam, the heart and soul of theempiremedia.com. What's up, man? You know, you and I haven't really talked just straight politics in a while, or what's, the I should maybe say the current issues, politics. We've talked about a lot of theory, we've talked about a lot of philosophy, we've talked about stuff, but during the election there was so much time for us to just talk about this stuff. So the question I have for you, Adam, for anybody out there really, is something I keep hearing that's, I don't want to say it's bugging me, but I know the Constitution pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Not as good as some. Better than most, I would say. But definitely, I'm no expert. I'm definitely no expert. But something you keep hearing in the media, on both sides. You hear it from Fox, you hear it from CNN, you hear it on I watched a lot of local stuff over the weekend when I just had some free time to watch on Saturday and Sunday mornings, Some of the serials were on there. And a term you hear a lot now is constitutional crisis.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard this a lot, right?
In
regards to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be one of the big talking points right now. Now, I'm not endorsing anything Trump has done recently. I'm not endorsing or condemning it, actually, by saying this. But what do they mean by that? Why are they saying that it's a constitutional crisis? Do you have any insight into this, Adam? Why they're I don't really get this. Is firing people a constitutional crisis? I just don't see why it is.
I don't think on the surface, Josh, firing somebody is a constitutional crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a president will hire or fire people all the time. I mean, it's something that I'm sure that George Washington and John Adams and all the early presidents of our time have done. And I'm sure it's something that some of the more modern presidents have always done. I think the biggest difference right now between, well, in any sense, is what a potential firing or what the potential firing on the horizon could mean in terms of a constitutional crisis. And that potential firing that I'm talking about is the firing of Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, who Donald Trump would then put in somebody who would do his bidding in firing Special Counsel Robert Mueller. And yes, it's true. The president cannot directly fire a special counsel. However, if he was to get somebody in there that will do his bidding, then I think that's when we have a special circumstance here of when we could have a constitutional crisis.
What exactly is a constitutional crisis? Is this the media or whoever it is this them just trying to set the stage or give reason for a potential impeachment? I mean, is that why they're using this term?
Well, I mean, as you would know, impeachment is a political process. It's not a criminal or anything like that. It's for in most cases it's a political process.
It does need to be for the case of the president does need to be brought about because of high crimes or misdemeanors.
High crimes and misdemeanors, and that's exactly the case that we have here, though, Josh. And I actually brought up this article. It's from thenation.com, and first I'm going to go through and where's that quote at? I'll read this paragraph to you, Josh. The deliberately vague term "other high crimes and misdemeanors" was designed to address constitutional crises of the sort that arise when a president removes the veteran law enforcement man who is investigating allegations of wrongdoing by that president and his inner circles. It answers the questions posed by George Mason as the Constitutional Convention was deliberating on the question of presidential accountability. And this is a quote. You may be familiar with it. "No point is of more importance than that the right of impeachment should be continued," Mason explained. "Shall any man be above justice? Above all, shall that man be above it. Who can commit the most extensive injustice?" And the difference here is that Donald Trump isn't going to be, he wouldn't fire somebody in essence because he thinks that they're doing a bad job. What Donald Trump would be doing is firing somebody because they're investigating him. And from my standpoint, and again, people may think my opinion is bunk because I've made no secret about my feelings of Donald Trump, and neither have you. But to me, that's a problem. Using your presidential authority to go and fire somebody because they're investigating you for potential crimes, which obstruction of justice is a crime. To me, that is an impeachable offense. And if they go and they try to circumvent the Constitution and the laws that are already on the books to continue to prevent that investigation from taking place, then to me, that could very much constitute a constitutional crisis.
Honestly, Adam, you're making a better point of it than people on cable news do. You're actually doing a better job of it than most people. I disagree partially.
Okay.
And this is the only reason why. I think many of the things Donald Trump has done, many of the things that he's being criticized for in the media are proof that Donald Trump is a jerk. But I don't think there's any proof, or that somebody thinks he's a jerk. But I don't see anything that is impeachable. And to me, this is a criticism of big government in one ways, because we have checks and balances, right? I mean, that's what it's all about.
And Donald Trump has gotten a very firm lesson in checks and balances.
He has. But sometimes I believe when people speak to this idea that somebody from the executive branch can't be fired because, hey, that's there for checks and balances, right? Well, it's not, though. The truth is, the executive branch has grown far larger than the Constitution ever wanted it to, or ever should have allowed it to. So, truth be told, the checks and balances aren't supposed to come from the executive branch. So, who can't Donald Trump fire? He can't fire Congress.
True.
That's who he can't fire. Who else can he fire? He can't fire the Supreme Court. These are the people that Donald Trump can't fire. But truth is, although you hope for justice, and although you hope that everyone there who has indeed pledged to protect the Constitution and all its enemies, foreign and abroad, you hope that those people take that oath seriously and that they are there to do the right thing. But the executive branch isn't supposed to check itself. All those people who work in the executive branch, people may not like it. I'm one of those people. But they actually do work at the leisure of the President of the United States. He is the head of the executive branch. To me, the question is, the constitutional crisis is, why have we allowed the executive branch to grow to such a level that it contains so many of these cabinet positions? So that's why when they say it's a constitutional crisis, say, well, in the Constitution, they don't even list, the cabinet's not even in the Constitution. There's no cabinet in the Constitution. That was all added later. Even the original ones. I mean, I could go out on a limb and say that George Washington was pushing the Constitution a little bit, or bending the Constitution a little bit, when he appointed a Secretary of State, a Secretary of War, a Secretary of Treasury, and Attorney General. To me, in my personal opinion, in my biased small government opinion, I acknowledge, the only 4 cabinet positions that are worth a damn. You know, I really do. I don't even see why there are other cabinet positions. I feel like they're worthless.
What are your 4 cabinets that are worth a damn? I'm sorry.
The ones appointed by George Washington, which are Attorney General, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of War, which we now call Secretary of Defense. Not because we changed. A lot of people think we just changed the name because it sounded nicer. We changed it because there was a Secretary of War, and then there was a Secretary of the Navy later, when the Navy became large enough. And then, in a good play, when the Air Force became separate from the...
and it became its own branch.
It became its own branch. Instead of making a 3rd cabinet position, they actually, in a very rare instance, did make it smaller and made the Secretary of Defense, which now the Joint Chiefs of Staff report to them. So the old Secretary of War is kind of like the Joint Chief of Staff of the Army, and the old Secretary of Navy is kind of like the Joint Chief of Staff of the Navy, and now there's a Joint Chief of the Air Force, and they all report to the Secretary of Defense. So that's where the DOD comes from, in essence. There actually was a different cabinet position at first, too, at the Postmaster General, which still exists, but is no longer a cabinet-level position, just because it doesn't really need to be.
No.
But
and who uses the post office anymore?
Yeah. Hey, I'm a big fan of the post office, though. I am. We're, if someone said, "Here, take this letter to Florida. Here's 45 cents," I'd be like, "Get out of here, man." I mean, the post office is a pretty good deal.
Ever see The Postman?
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah,
it's Tom Petty.
It's not bad.
Yeah, Kevin Costner, Tom Petty. I like it.
There's some parts in it that I can do without.
Yeah, it's like 9 hours long.
Yeah,
so there's going to be some parts that
you could probably shave off a good 2 hours of it.
There's a solid 80 minutes buried in that movie. But to me, that's the constitutional crisis.
So the constitutional crisis is the executive branch checking itself,
right? Is expecting the executive branch to check itself.
So is the executive branch necessarily checking itself when it comes to this whole thing that's going on right now?
Well, I think Congress is asking it to. When truth be told, that's Congress's job. It is Congress's job. We elected those people to serve and protect, and Congress is supposed to be. A lot of people sometimes wrongly answer the question when they say, this is like a question you always ask people in like political science 101, your first year of college, and people answer wrong and say, what's the most powerful branch of government? And people always want to say, there isn't one. They're equal. They're equal. It's like, no, they're actually not. No. The legislative branch is supposed to be the most powerful branch of government.
I always maintain a unified legislative branch of the United States is the most powerful governing body in the entire world.
Right. I mean, and it's designed to be. I mean, it is actually designed to be more powerful. Now, why is it more powerful, though? Let's think about it. Why? By design, not necessarily how it works now, but why is it more powerful? Because that power, Congress, the legislative branch, is more powerful than the executive branch and the judicial branch. But that power is spread between 535 people. So, who is the most powerful man? Most powerful person in the United States? Well, yeah, it's the president. The president is, of course, designed to be the most powerful person. And the president, basically, by design, is supposed to wield, maybe not 100%, but damn near 100% of the power of the executive branch. Because the executive branch isn't supposed to be all these other people. The executive branch is supposed to be the president, the vice president, who doesn't do anything according to the Constitution, except for voting a tie in Congress. And even that's because he's technically part of the legislative and the executive branch. But basically, the executive branch is supposed to be the president, the vice president, and a couple other people.
But
a handful of other people.
I mean the.
And then they are to be checked by the judicial branch, a powerful branch, and the most powerful branch in the legislative branch.
So you're saying that when it comes to the special counsel, that the attorney general shouldn't be appointing them.
Yeah, to some degree. I think the attorney general shouldn't even be doing that job.
Okay.
I mean, that shouldn't be it. If the president has done something that is impeachable or even censure-worthy, then it should be Congress talking about it. It should be Congress.
But isn't that what we're kind of working towards? I mean, Robert Mueller obviously cannot. He can't arrest the president. He can subpoena him. He can he can make recommendations to Congress, which I think this is all what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And yes,
I mean, he could arrest the president.
It's true. There's no definitive, concrete evidence yet against Donald Trump over whether it was collusion or whether it was obstruction of justice. But what we have right now, though, is a bunch of circumstantial evidence that can certainly support both of those ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have the Trump Tower meeting, which could signify collusion at some point, and we have the Comey firing, which can signify obstruction of justice. And I think right now, at the very, very least, and this has gotten plenty of bipartisan support in Congress, that you need to at least let this investigation play itself out. And if you don't let it play itself out because the president is injecting himself into it, then that's when we could potentially have a real crisis here, whether you want to call it a constitutional crisis or what. But that's when we start to have a set of circumstances here that can become very, very dangerous. If the president is continuing to wield that sword and abuse his power in office, and if you're asking me, I mean, it's you have to let this play out. You have to let it play itself out, because the American people deserve to know whether or not, and it all traces back to what truly makes this country really great. It's the power of the people,
right,
being able to go out and elect governing officials to represent them without any outside interference from a foreign body.
Right. And this I was like going to bring up that same thing. This is why Congress needs to do its job, because truth is, the president can hire and fire whomever he wants within the executive branch. I mean, he actually can.
That's
I mean, it's up to the other two branches of government to do this. And the real question is, if you want to follow the Constitution, and I do, there's another segment of the American government that is, although we said of the three branches of government, the legislative branch is the most powerful, there is another segment of American government that is more powerful than the legislative branch, even spread between more people than the 435, and that is the people, the voters. The voters. We, the people, are supposed to be the government, not just like the government or dislike the government. We are the government. So where the problem lies is that a whole bunch of people voted for Donald Trump. None of them are in this room. Adam and I didn't vote for him, but he won the election. And what was one? I mean, the argument could easily be made that and I'm not making this argument, but the argument could easily be made that what is Donald Trump doing right now by firing all these people constantly? He's draining the swamps, right?
According to to some, whether it be Donald Trump or a lot of his base supporters.
the people that voted for him, and so I mean, this is how Donald Trump ran his business. He trademarked the phrase "you're fired," which is ridiculous, by the way, because he's the first person that ever said that. But he trademarked the phrase "you're fired." He's coming in and he's running this like he ran his business. Personally, the best way I can think to describe running something like that is running it like a jerk. But he is the president, and they all do work at at the leisure of the president of the United States within the executive branch. We, the people, don't work for him. Congress doesn't. But these people all do. And I feel like the real constitutional crisis here, if there is one, is Congress, the legislative branch, expecting the executive branch to do their job.
But isn't I mean, and you're talking about wielding a big sword, whether you're the president in the executive branch or Congress in the legislative branch. And you're right, Josh. President can go and hire and fire essentially whoever he wants. I mean, he can't directly fire Robert Mueller. That's up to Rod Rosenstein. But he can fire Rod Rosenstein and hire somebody, bring in an attorney general who basically isn't recused from the Russia investigation, and have him fire Robert Mueller.
To be honest with you, I don't actually see why Donald Trump can't fire him directly, to be honest, because, I mean, the attorney general is, who is the highest law enforcement agent in the country? Well, people would answer the attorney general. Technically, it's not. It's actually the president. The president is the attorney general's boss. That's not what we elect the president for, but you say, who's in charge of the economy? Oh, the Secretary of Treasury. Well, yeah, but the president's his boss. Who's the Secretary of State? Well, he's the head of foreign policy, but no, really, the president is the Secretary of State's boss. All of these people are extensions of the president of the United States, and we as a country have decided that we need, a whole bunch more of those cabinet positions, and that every single one of those cabinet positions has to have a whole bunch of employees, and it almost, in essence, makes the executive branch bigger than the legislative branch, which it shouldn't be.
You know what this reminds me of, though? Remember that scene in Pulp Fiction at the very, very end when Samuel L. Jackson, it was the scene when they had all the guns pointed at each other. The only one that was truly safe was John Travolta's character.
Right.
He was the one that, really had all the power to do anything he basically wanted to do. And this is how it goes with this whole, Donald Trump firing Robert Mueller type of thing here. If Donald Trump does go through and does end up firing the attorney general, putting somebody in there who ends up firing Robert Mueller. I mean, can't Congress take a look at that then and be like, hey, you know what? We feel like there is something wrong here. We're going to go ahead. The House is going to draft impeachment proceedings against you.
I think it's censure him, but where's the high crime or the misdemeanor?
Obstruction of justice.
But obstructing what justice?
Obstructing justice in the investigation into you. You see, that's where all of this is very different from a normal set of circumstances.
I feel like because they have to prove the initial crime, not obstruction of justice of a crime that hasn't been proven, because he's still guilty. But
this is where we run into the problem. Then this is where we run into the problem of the president having too much power. Then, because if he goes and fires somebody before an investigation can conclude itself, I mean, isn't that in and of itself potentially somebody who is going down the path of a dictatorship here? I mean, to me,
because Congress still exists. They're just not doing their job.
Okay, then can't Congress then
But
this is the other thing though. With the investigation that the House Intelligence Committee brought up against Donald Trump and this whole into the Russian probe, the problem with them is it was such a half-assed investigation. They didn't subpoena documents. They didn't talk to Michael Flynn. They didn't talk to George Papadopoulos. They didn't talk to Paul Manafort. They didn't talk to anybody. Yet they went and they concluded that, oh, you know what? We're gonna stop this investigation because we feel like there's nothing here to investigate anymore. And when you don't take those appropriate steps to at least talk to some of these prime figures in all of this, how does the American people have your trust into you actually doing your job from that standpoint in an efficient manner? To me, that's not proving anything. To me, that's proving that, you know what, they just want to keep their guy in office without without a firm, reasonable, thorough investigation taking place, because we don't want to know what they'll find, and we don't want to have to deal with those issues that may arise if they so arise.
To me, the check and balance that the Constitution gives us for this at this point is, because I do say at this point, Donald Trump hasn't done anything impeachable. I mean, he really hasn't. He's done things I don't like. He's done things a lot of other people don't like. He's done things that a lot of people really hate. But he hasn't done anything impeachable. Where all of these people are subject not just to impeachment, but removal, is in a few months from now when we vote. So if people believe that the Republicans are basically ignoring crimes being committed, or simply just bad doings being committed by the president, then we need to vote for somebody else to take those positions. And it doesn't help the country any to be bogged down with red tape and silly analysis of it, when truth be told, Congress is up for re-election the end of this year. And the president's up for re-election in less than 3 years. So, I mean, they were not just appointed, they were elected to a job. These guys being fired were appointed to jobs. They can come and go. But these people elected to them, they need to be able to do the job they're elected to do. And if they're doing a lousy job, stop voting for your incumbent, everybody.
Well,
Stop voting for the same. Stop voting for the same old bastard that you've been putting in that position for years and years.
That could very well be the case, though. This time around, Josh. I mean, a lot of people believe that the Democrats could take back the House.
They might.
It's probably they're probably not going to be able to take back the Senate. I don't know if the numbers are quite there in the Senate, but most believe that they will take back the House.
They might, and the Republicans have held the House for a while now, but the Democrats could take it back. Well, not that long, but they have held it. But I'm not big on constitutional amendments. Several of them I think are, not awesome. A lot of them are very good. 13, 14, and 15, those are definitely good ones. The Bill of Rights, the first 10, those are great. A few other ones are pretty cool. But but I like the Constitution the way it is. I don't feel like it needs a whole bunch of amendments. And truth be told, I kind of am Madisonian in my idea. James Madison didn't want a Bill of Rights. I don't know if you knew that. He opposed the idea of a Bill of Rights, not because he opposed any of those things. He helped write the Bill of Rights and helped particularly choose those ones. And yes, he did put speech first and guns second, and he did kind of put them in order of how important they thought they were going to be. But the reason he didn't want a Bill of Rights was because he thought that if there was a Bill of Rights, people would later construe it to believe that those are the only things we have rights to. And the Constitution is supposed to give us rights to pretty much do everything, to do whatever we want. We're supposed to be free. It's called liberty. So that's why I'm not real big on amendments to the Constitution, because they act like they're giving you a right, but a lot of the times they're regulating a right, which I don't particularly like. But one constitutional amendment I would love to see is term limits for congressmen. I think that would be great. And there's a few guys out there. My buddy Rand Paul is big on term limits for Senate and for Congress. A few other ones. Orrin Hatch ran on the idea of having term limits for senators about 1 million years ago. Then he served like 19 terms in a row. So he obviously kind of changed his mind on that. And by the way, it's doesn't mean that you necessarily oppose term limits because you served more than because you kept serving when people elected you to it. Not necessarily saying that, because you're going to say, well, I think there should be term limits, so I'm going to step down and let somebody who doesn't support term limits take my spot. It doesn't really work that way either. But I don't understand why we don't bring in some sort of term limit for Congress, for Senate, or I should say for the House and for the Senate. I don't know. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about term limits?
You know what? I can agree. I can agree that we should most certainly have term limits for Congress.
I'm actually not even one of these people. I've heard the other ones that people have brought up are much more aggressive. I would be happy with them saying 20 years in Congress. And that's a long time.
No, it is a long time.
But that's total.
For both the House and the Senate?
Yeah, for either one. You want to do 3 in the Senate and 1 term in the House? There's your 20. You want to serve 10 terms in a row in the House? It's okay too. I think maybe 16 actually would probably be better.
Can they
16.
run again after?
No.
If they're out of office?
No, that once you're just like the president. You can serve. President can serve 2 terms. They can be consecutive. They can be non-consecutive. I saw a tweet that went viral last week. It had like 7 billion likes or something. That basically just said, "Hey, remember, Joe Biden could run for president and pick Barack Obama as his running mate. We could have this. This could happen. And share."
No, can't.
No, it can't, you idiots. Just because you say something on Twitter doesn't make it true. The president should maybe heed that advice as well.
No.
But just because no, absolutely not.
Well, the purpose of the vice president is to become president should the need arise.
Right. So if anyone saw that post on numerous different forms of social media. No, Barack Obama cannot be vice president. Nor can Bill Clinton. Nor can George W. Bush. George Bush Sr.
George Bush Sr. can.
He technically can be.
For just one term, though.
Yep. Well, no, he can be vice president for a lot more. It's like Joe Biden could be vice president again.
Well, no, but actually, how would that work? Because HW served for only one term,
right? So
he can be vice. So he can be vice.
He also served for eight years as a VP under
Reagan.
Reagan.
I know that. But what would happen? This is such a ridiculous.
No, but it is. It is worth it.
But say something happened to the president that he was vice president under. Something happened to them early on in their presidency. I mean, would he have to give up the presidency after 4 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. But if the actual maximum amount of years someone can serve as president is 10, not 8. Because if it's less than half a term, it doesn't count. So you technically could serve for 10 years, but you can't. But Obama can't. He can't jump in there because he's already served his 2 full terms. So it's your 2 full terms to draw. That's why LBJ was president for about 6 years, about 6.5 years, and he could have ran again. He chose not to, but he could have ran again, and he would have been president for like 9.5 years.
They put that amendment in after
FDR.
After FDR, yeah.
Where had Gerald Ford,
your favorite president,
had
FDR.
Gerald Ford won, FDR, my buddy, social warrior who interned a whole bunch of Japanese people. But had Gerald Ford won the election against Jimmy Carter, he would have been term limited. He had served 3 years of Richard Nixon's term. So that one election would have been, that's it. He would have been out. He would have been term limited at 7 years. That he would have been done. Where LBJ had served, 6, roughly 5.5, 6, and he was eligible for one more term. But no, Barack Obama cannot be vice president to anyone, nor can George W. Bush, nor can Bill Clinton.
Hillary Clinton, though.
Who?
Hillary Clinton can.
Oh, Hillary Clinton definitely can. She's got 8 years still in there, and she wants them. And I don't care what anybody says. She still wants them bad.
I like your conspiracy theory that you were pushing about Barack Obama not wanting Hillary Clinton in as his VP because something might happen.
Oh, jeez, yeah, you can't put Hillary as your vice president. Oh my God.
What
we didn't even know he was depressed. He won the election and committed suicide. It's crazy.
I thought you were gonna play something off like, oh, all of a sudden Air Force One's brakes don't work anymore.
Right? Yeah, exactly. No, you can't put Hillary as your VP. It's nuts. You will wake up dead. You will wake up.
You will wake up dead.
Yes, you will wake up dead one morning.
I will kill you until you die.
Yeah, yeah. One of these days, you will wake up dead. That's just how it works. No, I mean, then Secretary of State's a much more powerful position, really,
than Vice President.
Than Vice President.
I mean, yeah. But until something happens to the president.
No, you make Joe Biden your vice president. He's an honest guy. He's kind of goofy, but he's an honest guy. I like Joe Biden, actually. I mean, I don't like his politics.
We have that on tape. I'm going to cut out what you just said there. I like Joe Biden.
You can. I do. I like Joe Biden. You can have that. Good Catholic. Like me.
God.
Hey, man, how busted is your bracket? It's March Madness. Let's talk about it a little bit. I'm sure you guys talked about it like crazy on the Majors Live.
We did talk about it a little bit last night. My bracket is completely fucked.
Yeah.
It is completely fucked. And the thing is too, Josh, I'm usually pretty good at picking my bracket. I mean, whenever I'm in a pool, I'm never finishing first, but I'm never dead last either. I'm never my bracket for the most part doesn't look like doesn't look like a murder scene or anything like
Right.
that. This year, though, and it seems like this is the case for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
My bracket is just completely fucked. I mean, I still have my national champion going, Villanova. I picked Villanova to go all the way, but other than that, my Final Four consisted of Virginia, North Carolina, Villanova, and Michigan State, and I am 1 for 4 when it comes to that.
Rough. That's rough.
And I think it was my South region is just completely gone. Which I think is that's the region. I believe is that the region that Michigan is in. I can't remember, but yeah, it's bad. I mean, this year is one of those years though that you look and you see what happened. And Sunday it was really amazing. Just it was just upset after upset after upset after upset. I mean, you had you had Xavier going down. You had Michigan State going down. You had North Carolina going down. You had Cincinnati blowing big leads. It was nuts. I mean, it's exciting to see, unless obviously if you're a fan of any of those teams. But I mean, this is one of the more compelling NCAA tournaments that we've seen in a while.
You know, my son is I didn't even officially do a bracket this year. I filled some stuff out, but my son picked a bracket, and I just thought, like, I'm just gonna kind of root for Alex's bracket this year because he's awesome at it. Alex is usually really good at this. Last year, he's only 12, but last year he picked the final game and the winner, and the year before that he picked the entire Final Four.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I mean he had the entire Final Four. He didn't get the winner right that year, but he picked all 4 with the Final Four. Was legit. So I'm like, all right, let's get you in a pool and see what you can do. He had Virginia winning it all. Yes. And as you know, as people know, University of Maryland, Baltimore.
University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Yeah. They were the first.
The Retrievers.
The first ever 16 seed to defeat a number 1 seed. And crazy. It's cool, you know?
It is cool. And the thing that is even potentially even more amazing about this is that Virginia was the number 1 overall. So they weren't just number 1 seed; they were the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. They lost 2 games all year. Back earlier in the season, you had UMBC losing to Albany by like 50 points or something like that, which was incredible to see, to go from that to all of a sudden knocking out the number 1 overall seed in the entire country.
Right.
I mean, again,
and UMBC, they didn't win on the last second.
No, they destroyed them. They destroyed Virginia.
They absolutely killed them.
Yeah, and it's incredible. It's one of the, and we talked about this last night. It was one of the biggest upsets in sports history.
Right.
When you have something like that, and like you were saying, it's not just a 16 beating a 1, which in and of itself is remarkable. Never happened until this weekend. But when you have it done by that margin, that's what makes it even more amazing.
Right.
More astonishing. So,
and like you said, Virginia was the number 1 team of the 4 number 1 seeds. They were the number 1.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I was really trying to pinpoint what's been going on this tournament. I just can't put my finger on it. I mean, I don't know if the automatic bids have anything to do with it, or just the upper, the higher seeded teams just not being as good. I mean, I don't know, and I don't really think that that's the case because, for instance, when you look at Michigan State, they have 2 guys in Jaren Jackson Jr. and Miles Bridges who are potentially lottery guys.
Right.
You had Virginia, like I said, who lost 2 games all season. I mean, a lot of these teams were pretty stacked.
Yeah, I mean, how does Tom Izzo? I know Tom Izzo is just a god of coaching, but I mean, how does he explain away that one to have 3 NBA guys on his team?
He can't,
and what he's done with them.
And
People would just kill for that kind of talent on any team in the country.
You know what? And Dorf, who's a big Michigan State fan, big time Michigan State fan, and we were discussing this last night, and Dorf was coming down hard on Tom Izzo, which he should. And I've posed this question immediately after that game ended, that you know what, Tom Izzo can no longer be considered an untouchable god anymore in East Lansing, because when you look at it, this is the third year in a row that Tom Izzo didn't make it past the opening weekend in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
Again, you could make excuses for last year going up against a very good Kansas team, having a young team yourself and an injured team. Okay, but the year before that, they lost to Middle Tennessee State in the first round.
Right. And hey, let's remember too that Tom Izzo, what's he supposed to be known for? He's known for being the tournament coach.
Yeah.
You know, that's what he was kind of made his name for, was that, we don't always kill it like the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the Kentuckys do in the regular season. But when it comes to the tournament, you don't want to go up against Tom Izzo, but not anymore.
No, and Dorf, if anybody hasn't read it yet, he wrote an extremely good article on Detroit.themajors.net, just kind of highlighting all the problems that Tom Izzo is presenting himself and Michigan State basketball, and it boils down to his rotation problems, and it's weird because Tom Izzo is doing something that really shouldn't happen when you're in a position that he is in. Tom Izzo opens up his bench. And that's not something that's necessarily a good idea, especially when you're dealing with a one-and-done tournament. You need to give your best players the most minutes possible.
Absolutely.
Because other teams are going to be doing that.
Yeah.
Whether you're Syracuse, who is a good argument could be made whether or not they should even have made the tournament, or if you're Duke or Virginia, for that matter.
Sure, you want to make an argument to rest for the tournament in the regular season. That's one thing, but you can't rest for the tournament when you're in the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to open up your bench in December, there's going to be people debating on whether or not you can do that, but you could better support your own argument.
Sure.
Then as opposed to now. I don't know. Tom Izzo has done a bunch of questionable things, and Dorf brought up this point as well, that what are you going to do if you are a big time player, a potential one and done in the NCAA?
Sure.
Are you going to want to go and play for a guy like Tom Izzo when your minutes can be cut because he wants to open up his bench, when you know that's going to be one of your best opportunities to sit there and showcase yourself to the NBA? Or are you going to go to Duke? Or are you going to go to Kentucky, where John Calipari has no problem playing his best players, ungodly minutes on a night in, night out basis?
Or quite frankly, if you are really in love with the state of Michigan, are you going to look to Ann Arbor and want to play under a guy like Beeline, who is going to be a good teacher and is going to welcome that chance to bring you in for a minute and let you go to the NBA.
The thing is I'm not saying that Tom Izzo isn't a good teacher. I think Tom Izzo is a good basketball mind. And, he is a good basketball coach. An argument could be made, though, whether or not the game has passed him by. And John Beilein has his problems as well. I think John Beilein right now has one of John Beilein's big problems is relying too much on the three.
Yeah.
And not getting enough bigger guys down low to, adequately open up your game a little bit more and rely more on your depth as opposed to one aspect of
He
your
certainly doesn't have
arsenal.
Izzo's talent, though.
No, he doesn't. And the thing about Beeline and Michigan right now, they've been extremely fortunate these first two opening games. They've opened up looking like shit, and they relied on a desperation shot against Houston to beat them, which they beat them. That's all that matters at this point right now, is they beat them. They're moving on. And they have an extremely favorable path now to the Final Four and to the national championship game, Michigan all of a sudden is the highest seeded team on the left side of the bracket.
Yeah.
There's nobody higher than Michigan right now. And like I said, they're in an extremely fortunate position right now. Once they get to the national championship game, if they're able to get that far, I don't know, because they still have Kansas on the other side, they still have Duke on the other side, and they still have Villanova on the other side.
Sure.
But I mean, in today's day and age of college basketball, I mean, you kind of need those one and dones. You do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're coaching like Tom Izzo's coaching, or running the team like Tom Izzo's running the team, there could be a good chance that Tom Izzo never gets those guys. And I think, I'm not saying Tom Izzo needs to be fired. That's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that Tom Izzo no longer has that status anymore in East Lansing where he is untouchable and that his job can't be questioned. That's what I'm saying.
I would agree with that statement. Hey, you know, I'm a Michigan slappy, and you gave me props at the end of the football season this year where I basically said that about Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I said, hey, we could be looking at Jim Harbaugh. He's not the god we all thought he was. And I feel like Tom Izzo's kind of in the same boat as Jim Harbaugh in a lot of that.
Yeah, no, and he is
underachieving.
But in all fairness, Tom Izzo still has done more, relatively speaking, when we're comparing, basketball success to football success. I mean, and I was having
he's been there a long time.
Yeah, he has. I was having this conversation with Dorf, and I was like, okay, well, is Tom Izzo Michigan State's version of Bo Schembechler? And maybe that's not entirely fair, because Bo Schembechler still hasn't won a national title. Maybe the better comparison is Tom Izzo is more comparable to Lloyd Carr,
mm-hmm.
where Lloyd Carr won his national title earlier on, and Dorf made this point, and he kind of treaded water throughout the rest of his time there. I mean, people are happy with that, though. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are happy with that. People are happy with Big Ten regular season titles, which Michigan State hasn't done all that much of. And maybe, I know it's different in football, going to a somewhat adequate bowl game.
Right, yeah.
Maybe that's okay with people. I don't think that Michigan State fans should be okay with that, though.
I agree with you.
Given the expectations that Tom Izzo himself has set for the program. And the same thing goes for Michigan football fans. Mm-hmm. I don't think Michigan football fans should be okay with Jim Harbaugh finishing, what did they finish, 4th this year in the Big Ten East? And going and getting the Outback Bowl based on the simple notion that, oh, well, Michigan fans travel well, so we'll go ahead and give them the Outback Bowl. Did Michigan really deserve the Outback Bowl? Probably not. But in every sense, though, bowl games are kind of a sham because it's a money grab.
Right, of course it is. And so is the tournament in a lot of ways too.
But you're in some ways it might be based on region pairings mm-hmm. and potential first round, and based on where your bracket is potentially headed. But I mean, not to the level that bowl season is. I mean, bowl season, there's still problems when it comes to bowl selections and everything. So
yeah. So if people want more info on that, if you missed the Majors Live with Adam and Dorf
and Sean,
of course. But Dorf was who was being talked about. But yeah, if you wanna catch that, go to themajors.net and check that out, man.
Yeah.
Good coverage from them for sure. Hey, we made a big deal at the beginning of the show about how this was, a regular show, and Adam and I were just going to get the opportunity to kind of, talk things out and do kind of an old-fashioned podcast like we used to do, to have opportunity to do a lot more out of before we had crazy guests and a million different shows all the time. Not that I'm complaining, but we do got some cool shows coming up, though.
Mm-hmm.
Next week on the Xcast, we're bringing Khalil Johnson back, who people who listen to the show a lot know his voice. The opening rap song from the beginning is a freestyle that Khalil threw down on the show.
Yeah, just
randomly, pretty
Yep.
much, just like we picked a beat for him, and he just kind of threw that down, and we loved it. So we've been using that as our.
Well, actually,
intro.
he picked the beat because if you listen to the song,
Yeah, that's true. He rejected our first. He rejected our first few beats on there, but he came in. So we're gonna have Khalil back in studio, live in studio with us next week. Not all the Gentlemen Gangsters, but I think Khalil's just coming solo because he's got a ton of stuff in the works. In his rap career and other things as well too. I mean, he's got a ton of stuff going. We're gonna talk some horse racing next week with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I'd allow him to get in a little bit of that because, guys, I mean, aside from being this, kick-ass rapper, he's like the ultimate horse racing mind.
I know nothing about horse racing.
I know very little. And he can educate us and the fans on that. Next week, 2 weeks from now, we're gonna have historian, European history expert, and American history expert too, Tiffany Farisi. She's going to come on. She's going to be in studio with us, and we're going to kick around the idea of what her new show here on the EmpireMedia.com is going to inevitably probably be. She's brilliant.
History show.
Yeah, history show. She is a brilliant historian, and I can't wait to have her in studio. Actually,
No,
it'll be a lot of fun. Very cool. Got a lot of great ideas, and very brilliant. And she's gone to Europe to sit on review boards and everything else. She's got some cool things in her resume, so we can talk about some of that.
What's your favorite era of history? I'm assuming it's American history.
Actually, I'm actually really into British history. A lot. I'm big into Roman history as well.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
Big into that.
That's probably my favorite.
My degree is my last degree is in American history from a global perspective.
Okay.
So
you're a globalist, huh?
No, I'm not a globalist. but that I guess would be more my expertise. Would be
so you're
American
a nationalist.
history. Most of my thesis papers I had to write in college were on American history. But when I was doing my undergrad, I did a lot of stuff with British history. Actually, that was more my forte. But that's an ultra specialized degree that I didn't really necessarily want to.
You're more of a Western civilization type.
Yeah, for my graduate, I did like the one at the particular school that I went to, Tiffany's alma mater as well. It's where I met her. I did like this one because it wasn't just U.S. history; it was from a global perspective. So you got to throw in, a lot of courses on South America, Asia, things like that.
I was never a big, to tell the truth, I was never really a big American history guy.
Really?
I appreciate it much more now, though, than I did back then. During my upbringing through, through high school and college, I was much more of a Roman history.
Yeah, it's cool.
Antiquity and
very cool era. Well, you're a big art guy too, big art history.
Yeah, so. Yeah. So that's where a lot of that. I mean, my favorite period in art is definitely High Renaissance, which I know a lot of artists kind of shun because it's. I mean, I think a lot of them don't think it's as expressive as a lot of the other eras or movements in art, but I love it because it best defines the elements and principles of design. You're not going to get any better representation, I think, of the elements and principles of design than when you're dealing with High Renaissance. And I love the High Renaissance as well because it started to become more humanistic as opposed to the late medieval or medieval in general, and even in some cases the early Renaissance, when religion just played such it played too much of an impact, I think, on people's lives.
Sure.
Where they were frightened by it instead of inspired.
Sure.
By it.
I mean, in that area of a time when artists had to include something religious in their art, or they could actually be in trouble from the crown.
Oh yeah,
in certain instances. So even when they didn't want to always include a religious idea. Something had to be thrown in there.
It's funny though, because it seems like a lot of artists kind of threw in like a little bit of shade against the church in some standpoint.
They do, yeah.
I know Michelangelo certainly did it when he did the Sistine Chapel. In fact, I think it was right behind the altar. He did a picture of I think it was the Pope actually in one of the boats going to hell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there's a lot of theory out there that the famous scene on the ceiling of God giving life to Adam, the shape around God looks like it's a brain. So people assume, maybe or presume that God isn't an actual being, but more of a state of consciousness among people. So
interesting stuff. Very interesting. That's something we could definitely be discussing in the future too. And if we're gonna have a history show right here on the Empire Media, I'm looking forward to that. Be fun. Next Deep Issues show will be 3 weeks from today, and that's gonna be a cool one. That is going to be. We've done the JFK assassination in the past, but this is going to be a Kennedy revisited. So we're going to go back to that. We're going to elaborate on some of the things we covered last time, and we're going to bring in some brand new information as well.
Should we maybe, since this is Kennedy 2, shouldn't we, it feels like we should bring in a little Robert Kennedy into this.
We could do that. I could be down for some RFK. When we did JFK last time, I had a page of notes devoted for Robert, and we never got to it because we just had so much information.
Do you think there's any conspiracy surrounding his son, the airplane?
Absolutely. I do. No, I do. And Ted as well, actually. And some attempts on Ted.
Oh, really?
I do, yeah. So we can talk about the whole, You
don't think maybe he was just drunk and kind of
I think he was drunk, but... but... a lot of people are. No, I mean, I guess to throw a little preview out and something we can cover. Yeah, I do like that idea, Adam, to throw out the idea of some different aspects of the Kennedy family, not just JFK. But a lot of people, you'll hear them say, "Oh, the Kennedy family's cursed." Kennedy family is not cursed; it's preordained. There are people out there who are trying to get them. That's not a curse. That is, they made the wrong enemies.
I wonder if we should, the Kennedy family does very much have a dark side to it as well, and I'm sure a lot of people are aware of that. But the stuff that comes up about his dad and his mom, and then Rose Kennedy as well. I mean, it's sad and it's kind of infuriating too. That somebody would do that to their own kid, their own daughter.
Yeah. No, she was very much shunned. I grew up with this stuff
for political reasons.
My mom was a huge, amateur Kennedy historian.
Oh, really?
She
a Kennedy fan? Did she like Kennedy?
Yeah, she loves him. Yeah. Jackie Kennedy's like her favorite person of all time, basically.
Oh, really?
So she's going to be one of the people I talk to when I'm doing some research for this one. That's 3 weeks away, though. So next week, Khalil Johnson. Week after that, Tiffany Farisi. Week after that, the Kennedys.
Oh, and next week, too, we have Politics of the Empire coming back.
Yeah, that's going to air a little earlier. That's going to air, what?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock next week.
8 o'clock Eastern Time. Politics of the Empire.
We're going to be taking our political quizzes next week.
We are. Yeah. So. As this show, this isn't the first show; it's the second show. If you missed the other one, that was our kind of intro show. But this is going to be more of the intro to us, if you will, as three different minds: myself, Adam, and the aforementioned Dorf is the host of that show. So the three of us are going to be on there. We're going to take some political tests, and we're going to find out where we lie on the political spectrums of this world.
Oh, Aaron wants to know how long it's been since we've last seen Tim Shovelday.
It's been 5,022 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The search for Tim Shovelday is still on. 5,022 days deep. Where you at, Tim? Where you at? We miss you, buddy. We miss you. You ready to go around the Empire with Adam Hernandez?
All right. Let's do it. I don't know what's going on in Austin right now in Texas.
Yeah.
Another man seriously injured after a possible explosion in Austin. Emergency personnel responded after what police call an incendiary device exploded in the southern part of Austin, Texas, at a Goodwill store. A man in his 30s has suffered serious but not life-threatening injuries. Yeah, I don't know what this brings the number up to, but it started off with people getting hurt in these explosions. I believe 2 or 3 people have died. When at first they were being left on their porches. And then next, this serial bomber decided to use tripwires. And then now I guess it's there's a package that exploded at a FedEx distribution center in Texas. And now we're hearing about it happening at a Goodwill store. So I don't know. And right now they've tried to reach out to this bomber to try to, just try to get any type of motive from them, because they haven't been in. The bomber hasn't given anything, any lead as far as motive goes.
No, unfortunately, this is not like a TV show where he's leaving clues behind for the cops or something like that. They seem pretty clueless.
Yeah, and they said, just contact us, just talk to us, let us know what your motive is behind this. So, but he hasn't, or they, whoever it is, hasn't contacted him at all, and they're not able to find to gain any lead or anything like this, and to based on the evidence that they do have. And they don't think it is a foreign terrorist, because usually if it's somebody like ISIS, by now ISIS would have already claimed responsibility.
Sometimes they do, even when it's not them.
Exactly.
Claim responsibility for these things.
But right now, I mean, it's definitely a scary situation down there. I mean, I don't know how you walk out the door and aren't a little, afraid, because it seems like this can happen anywhere
And
in
they
Austin.
kind of, like you said, they kind of appear to be random acts of violence to some degree.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, Josh, is it's not it doesn't seem like they're targeting one particular group, whether it was, like a white nationalist or something targeting a Jewish center, or
no, it's not like out there where you should, like, God, if I was a Catholic, I'd be scared, or if I was a certain member of a race, I'd be scary. No, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of rhyme or reason, or at least not one that we've been able to put our finger on, or that they have been able to put their finger on as of yet. I don't know. There's crazy people out there. It's like, I almost feel like the police are kind of grasping at straws to say, okay, what's the motive here? But I think like the Joker says in The Dark Knight, some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah. That's. I mean, it seemed like
or like Alfred says, I should say.
About Alfred, was that Alfred that said that?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is very reminiscent though of the Unabomber.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, moving right along. Do you know who? Do you know who Cynthia Nixon is?
Oh, that sounds familiar. Who is that? No,
former Sex and the City star.
Oh, which one is she? Is that the
she is
the super skinny one?
I don't know. She was the which one was she?
It's not the girl from Big Trouble in Little China.
She was
the one who's the super slutty one on Sex and the City.
No, that was Samantha.
Okay, and not Matthew Broderick's ex-wife. I'm so awesome with names of stars.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah.
No. And it wasn't the one. It wasn't the one the blonde hair or the brown hair either.
Not the one that was with the guy from Dune, Kyle MacLachlan. So I'm probably the only guy in America who still references him as the guy from Dune.
God, I wish my wife was here. She'd know who.
So the other chick. Yeah. It's the one I was thinking of, the skinny one.
Is it the skinny one?
Yeah. Okay. The one who's the least hot. I'm sorry. I was trying to avoid saying that.
Anyway, she's running for governor of New York.
Oh, she is.
As a Democrat against incumbent Andrew Cuomo.
Why?
I don't know. I think she could do a good job, I guess. But
that's neat.
It's it continues that line right now that we seem to have of celebrities getting involved in politics. But
you are what's the word I'm looking for? You're qualified to do this because you're famous. Is basically the idea behind these people running. You know, they're qualified because they're famous. And people, when I say that, people say, "Hey, you love the Constitution. You love the Founding Fathers. We're supposed to be a citizen government." Yeah, I guess we are. Yeah. It seems to be making a mockery of democracy in my eyes, but that's fine. It's cool. Go ahead and vote for her, New York.
Vladimir Putin won a 6th term.
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, was it a 6th term? He won another 6 years. I don't know if it's a 6th term, though.
Well, he served 2, stepped down for 1. Then,
while his puppet was up there.
And then this, I think,
I'm not a puppet. You're a puppet.
Then I actually think this is his 3rd since then. Since then, which would be his 5th total.
Donald Trump has gotten heat though for calling up Putin and congratulating him for winning another term in office, and Donald Trump actually caught some heat from John McCain, who basically scolded the president, saying, "Why are you calling up a dictator and congratulating him for winning a sham election?" Which it was. Mm-hmm. It was. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's not like
this isn't really denied.
No.
By the way, by Russia.
No, I mean there was widespread reports of voter intimidation and ballot box stuffing and so on and so forth. Basically, everything that you can possibly do to rig an election, Vladimir Putin did. Not that he actually needed to do it, because I think he was generally running unopposed.
That's what I was going to say too. Who was actually even really? This was predetermined, and we all knew that. We all knew Putin was going to win this, and this is not really denied.
But why congratulate him now?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, why pick up the phone? Why say, "Hey, yeah, congratulations, congratulations, Putin"?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't.
This will make him the longest serving leader of Russia since Stalin.
Oh, really? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll see where that went.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Let's see what else we have here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. This one might
pique some interest.
Yeah, this one might pique some interest in you. Marvel-themed lands are coming to 3 Disney parks. The Disneyland parks in California, Hong Kong, and Paris will soon feature attractions with popular Marvel heroes. That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, it's about time.
Yeah, they own them, right? I mean, Disney owns everything. They might as well...
Do they have that in Disney World in Orlando? It seems like that's the only useful one to go to.
I know they got Darth Vader walking around and stuff down there now.
Do they?
Yeah.
Do they have a Star Wars land, though, in...
No, I don't think so, but they've incorporated some of the characters, and, you'll just see Darth Vader hanging around with Mickey and stuff.
I mean, how cool would that be, though, if you go and there's like a... what's the cantina?
Oh, Mos Eisley?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Like walking around a Mos Eisley.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
The band going.
Yeah, the band or just like different areas. Like if they had like a I don't know, get rid of the golf ball and have that be a Death Star. And how cool would that be?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's cooler than Mickey Mouse and stuff.
I mean, I'm sure it'd scare the shit out of some little kids seeing the Imperial Guards.
Yeah.
Walking around. But
yeah, look like the United States soon. We're under a police state. Stormtroopers walking around with laser guns and stuff.
Donald Trump is the law and order president. He's your president.
He is. He's your president too.
Oh, what else do we have here? Who the fuck is Fifth Harmony? I have no idea. I'm trying to find some good legitimate music stuff that we can touch on, but.
I was going to say that's a music group, right? Fifth Harmony?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Too old, thank God. I don't know.
Oh, here we go. Former Playboy model sues American Media Incorporated, which is the National Enquirer, over Trump non-disclosure agreement. You were asking this, Josh, about the whole thing with what is that really doing as far as Trump being photographed and
Right.
the whole affair and everything with a porn actress. And does the majority of his base probably care?
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean,
We knew he was kind of a pig before he was elected.
I think what they're looking at though is potential election campaign finance laws being broken.
Right. I mean, it's kind of grasping at straws, in my opinion. The only thing that they would have that is potentially legitimate is if they used campaign funds to pay her off, which, quite frankly, Donald Trump is rich. I really doubt that they're going to be able to pin that on him. You know,
I don't know what this does. I don't know what this does though for the.
It makes him look like a pig and a jerk, but only to the people that already don't like him.
I don't know what this does though for the evangelicals though. I mean, how is this souring their their outlook on him?
It could potentially.
Well, you kind of hope so though.
Well, I mean it doesn't make me think he's a very nice person, but I guess that's not why they voted for him though. You know, I mean, I guess that's this thing. You know, I mean, we know Donald Trump cheated on all three of his wives. Why do we know that? Because he said so in his books. he bragged about it. I mean, really, he was, he cheated on his first wife with Marla Maples, and then he cheated on Marla Maples, and then
with Melania.
Yeah, and potentially we know he cheated on her. I guess I don't know that it's. I've heard that said. I don't know that
it's a circle of life. Mufasa told us about this in Lion King.
Exactly. I mean, listen, Donald Trump's a big rich businessman. He cheated on his wives a bunch of times. I don't know what to say about it. I mean, the joke I was making to Adam off air beforehand was they keep showing this picture of Donald Trump, looking orange and studly, from a few years back, and he has his gorgeous pregnant wife, Melania, is next to him, and then his gorgeous porn star mistress next to him. They're just walking around like, yeah, this rocks, and they are showing that picture over and over again to try to show, oh, look at this jerk Donald Trump, and I think there's just as many people going like, dude, it's cool.
I would just love to see the shit fit that the evangelicals on the right would be having if this was Barack Obama coming out with multiple wives.
It would be very similar.
Kids from different marriages.
I agree, and I've said some things on social media and on these shows and elsewhere that have pointed out some of the things that, like, what would the right be saying if these things were true about Obama? And people say, well, it's not illegal. It's like, hey, I didn't say it was illegal. None of this is impeachable. None of this is something that he could be impeached over.
Unless he lied under oath.
It's just being... Yeah, but even that, if he didn't do it as president, it's... then it's not impeachable.
But if he went and he lied under oath about it,
yeah,
though.
like Bill Clinton did.
Yeah.
That's why Bill Clinton's was... And let's be honest, Bill Clinton's was kind of a sham too, in a lot of ways. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been impeached. He did lie under oath. Big time lied under oath. He perjured himself. But let's not kid ourselves. For those of us who were around back when Bill Clinton was president, the right was going crazy talking about all Clinton's affairs. And did it stop any Democrats from voting for him? No, it didn't. Didn't stop them at all. So all the hashtag Me Tooers on the left and all the evangelicals on the right, they're all hypocrites.
You know what though? I don't think Democrats so much have a problem with him. I, for one, don't have a huge problem with him going out and committing adultery. From my standpoint, the only thing that proves is he's a shitty person, he's a shitty husband, but you know what? That's none of my business. If he's going off though and there's laws being broken, then yeah, you got to take a look at something like that.
Yeah. I really don't think there was. I don't. At least not in this particular thing. But honestly, is that his private life? Is that none of our business? I actually don't know if I agree with that. The minute he decided to become president of the United States, everything's our business. every little bit of it.
No, I agree. I mean, that's
same with Clinton. I'll be honest. I didn't like Bill Clinton for these reasons, and I don't like Donald Trump for these reasons.
He's I mean, he's yeah. I mean, you're holding the highest public office in the land. Keyword there, public.
Yeah.
That's your life being put out in the open is. I mean, that comes with the territory.
Does it mean he's a bad president?
Yes.
No, not necessarily. It doesn't. Does it mean Bill Clinton was a bad president? No, I'm not.
No.
By the way, I'm not saying either one of
them. No, Donald
are or aren't bad presidents. I'm just saying that this isn't why.
No, Donald Trump cheating on his wife is it doesn't necessarily make him a bad president. In fact, Donald Trump is far from the first president to cheat on his wife.
Absolutely, you are absolutely right.
But
there's a long line of wife cheaters.
Yeah,
on
both Democrat and Republican.
And was it different? Was it worse what Bill Clinton did? Yes, he did. He did it while he was president. He's getting BJ's in the Oval Office.
You know what? I have no problem with that, though. I know you do.
Yeah, I do.
I have no problem with it.
No, I have a huge problem with it. I mean I have a problem with both of them. I do. I have a problem with both cases. What Clinton did was worse, but what I've been trying to remind people on the right, is they say, no, it was worse because Bill Clinton did it in the Oval Office. Yes, but that wasn't the first we heard about this. We heard about Linda Tripp. We heard about all these, we heard about Jennifer Flowers. We were hearing about all of Bill Clinton's affairs long before Monica Lewinsky. And were they using it to try to defame him? Yes, they absolutely, positively were. Now that it's the opposite, and all the Democrats back then said it was okay, no big deal, who cares? And now the Republicans are doing the same thing. I just like to point out the hypocrisy of it all. Does it make you unqualified to be president because you cheated on your wife? No, it really doesn't. Can I think you're a crappy person for it? Yeah, I can.
Aaron's listening to us again tonight, and he pointed out we went from Russia to Disney to not music to porn stars tonight.
That sounds like the X-Cast.
That's what happens though when we don't have we don't have a guest or anything like that.
Right?
I
mean, the lack of focus was kind of our focus for tonight's show, I guess.
He does have a question. Do you guys think Trump will actually go under oath for a Mueller interview? He said he would over a year ago. I think he will, but it's going to be very, very what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think his lawyers are going to let him go in there with letting him do a deposition or anything like that without anybody else there. Yeah, not like how Clinton did it. I think it's going to be highly structured and it's going to be highly censored on his side of the thing.
I imagine. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he'll do it unless he has to. Basically.
Yeah.
But we got anything else?
This is going to continue to support your idea of a robot revolution, robot holocaust, whatever it is you want to call it.
Yeah. They're taking over.
Uber, they halted their autonomous car testing after a fatal crash. Did you hear about that?
I did.
In Phoenix, an Uber self-driving car hit and killed a woman in Arizona. It was likely the first pedestrian fatality involving a driverless vehicle. Uber said it's halting tests of all autonomous cars in Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Toronto, and the Phoenix area. Was this an accident, or was the robot car looking for somebody to hit and it hit her?
No, I do think it's an accident. I don't like the robots. I do think they're going to take over. I think they're smarter than that, though. I think this whole thing... Okay, I feel like I'm all over the map on this because...
I'm disappointed in your response.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't like robots. I don't. They're scary, and they're going to take over the world, and they're going to enslave us. And why we keep perpetuating this thing, Bill Gates said so. Stephen Hawking, God rest his soul, said so. They're coming for us. The robots are going to get us. But,
Stephen Hawking said that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Stephen Hawking was like quit with the AI stuff, and they're gonna get this. But that's not a quote, by the way.
Stop with the
That was paraphrased big time. But listen, it's tragedy that somebody died, but are people naive enough to think that we were going to have self-driving cars and that all of a sudden no one would ever die again in a car accident? I'm not trying to make light of it. I feel terrible for this person that lost their life. But is that what people thought? That all of a sudden we'd have self-driving cars and that no one would ever get hurt again in a car? I mean, this is not a reason to halt all production of it. It really isn't. You know, I mean, guess what? When we
want self-driving cars?
No, I don't. But this isn't a good reason to halt it because one person died tragically. Tons of people have died tragically with human driving cars. We didn't stop making them. I mean, sometimes when, in progress, you do lose some lives. We didn't stop the space program the first time an astronaut died. We didn't stop making cars the first time somebody crashed one. We started going crazy with them. This isn't a reason to not have self-driving cars. The reason not have self-driving cars is because the robots are evil and they're going to take over our lives and enslave us. But this isn't a reason to not have them. And if you think that just because you automate this, that all of a sudden no one will ever get hurt, well, then you're dumb. I mean, you're dumb. That's not.
In all fairness, I don't think they're halting it for good. I'm sure they're probably halting it to see what the problem was so they can fix it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're halting it to say the right thing to the media, basically, and to put the right face forward, and then they'll continue it, tomorrow, but maybe halt the usability of it.
I'm sure if they went out there with your statement and were like, hey, you know what? People die in car accidents every day. We're going forward with. I'm sure that's probably not going to be good for Uber.
No, it's not. I mean, there's a PC aspect involved in this and everything else, and you got to say the right thing, especially when someone lost their life. But I mean, I don't know. It might be safer to have
automated.
Self-driving cars.
Look, I'm interested. I want to ride in one. I'll be scared at first.
Yeah, I would. It wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me at all. Well, it would bother me for my fear of robots. But I don't think that's the robot that's gonna
Have you heard the Alexa shit?
Yes,
like the Alexa,
hell,
the Alexa, laughing at you, like when you say a certain phrase or something, or
yeah. No, I know. I can't stand that. I won't have that stuff in my house.
No, you won't get an Alexa.
God, no way. I don't like it. My kids have iPhones and they have Siri, and I don't even like that. And I don't have it on my phone, but they have it. And yeah, actually, my son over the weekend was talking about how creepy Alexa was. He was bringing this up to me. I was just like, it's not worse than Siri. Like, you're just pro iPhone and.
He's pro iPhone.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Both my kids are iPhone. I'm an Android guy though.
Siri, are you going to take over the world?
That's something I don't know.
That's a big yes. That is a big yes. Siri's a liar. She knows. Oh, she knows. The only thing she doesn't know is it going to be Siri or is it going to be Microsoft or somebody else.
Are you going to enslave the human race?
Sorry, I don't really know.
Yeah, this is they've picked out the questions that Siri is supposed to say I don't know to them.
You know what? It was weird.
Why wouldn't she say no? That's a scary ass answer. Are you going to enslave the human race? I don't know. That means that it's a distinct possibility. Hey, Adam, are you going to enslave the human race?
No.
Yeah, I mean that's easy, right? So yeah, hey Josh, are you going to enslave the human race? No. Why would I do that? I'm not pro-slavery, and I don't have the means to enslave the human race as it is. Why would I? Who's enslaving anybody?
Siri, yes or no? Are you going to enslave the human race?
I find yes or no questions to be quite binary and limiting.
That's a yes. That is a yes. That's crap. Yeah, see, that's just proof. I'm sorry. That's just as scary as anything Alexa's done. Although that laugh from Alexa is creepy as hell.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, too, I mean, I hate mentioning this, but there was another school shooting today in Maryland. Luckily, the only person that died was the shooter himself. They're not quite sure if he was killed by the resource officer that was there, or if it was self-inflicted. But right now, I believe 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, 16-year-old female and a 14-year-old male was also shot. I believe it's the 16-year-old female that's in critical condition right now.
They are thinking both of them are gonna make it though.
Yeah, and they're not. And they believe that there was some connection between the three of them. But it happened today, I believe, just before 8:00 a.m. Eastern time. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to get into the gun debate or anything like that right now because we are at the end of the show. But this obviously add to that debate one way or the other, whether you're for or against, any types of gun control. But again, I mean, I felt, news section had to mention something about it today.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
It is good to see though that nobody innocent has died. It is certainly unfortunate though that that there were people hurt. And yeah. Anyways, anything else? Anything else, Josh?
I think that
give me a second here so I can get the music going. So
right. Again, plug-in shows in the future. Khalil Johnson next week, gonna be a great show. Him in here before was such a riot. One of the funnest shows we ever had. Hey, if you feel like checking out, I should have had it in front of me what number that was when we had Khalil and the Gentleman Gangsters on.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was. It was a long time ago.
It was over a year ago. So that was a great show. We're gonna have another one next week with Khalil. He's got a lot of new stuff that he's working on. That's gonna be great. Tiffany Farisi 2 weeks from today. Deep Issues Kennedy Revisited 3 weeks from today. And we had a lot of packed stuff going on.
And Politics of the Empire next week.
Yes, absolutely. Do we got a date on the next episode of the Loud State? Yeah.
Next month sometime. We're kind of throwing around whether or not we want to do the middle of the month, closer to Record Store Day.
Okay.
Or if we want to do it more towards the beginning of the month, which we've done for the first 2 shows so far. So stay tuned for that. It's either going to be, like I said, beginning of the month or the middle of the month.
Yeah.
Not quite sure.
Politics of the Empire got pushed back, so the potentially, we got that one next week, but probably, hopefully, it'll be less than a month from that one till the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the next month from now, you're gonna have probably 2 episodes of Politics of the Empire to get us going because we got some great topics lined up for that show.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Find out that Josh is an anarcho-capitalist and I might be an anarcho-communist.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. We both hate government. It's just for different reasons. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This has been episode number 78 of the Xcast. We will see you next week.
See you, everybody.